Rain hammered against the steel roofs of Terminal 47, drumming like war fingers over metal bones. The night air carried the scent of ozone, cold vapors from distant starship engines, and a coppery sharpness of fear that always settled wherever desperate creatures gathered. Neon signs flickered in broken pulses, casting sickly blue light across puddles that reflected the enormous orbital dock overhead. Humans and aliens pushed past one another in the crowded corridor, but no one noticed a small girl standing alone near the freight crates. Her name was Aria, barely 8 years old, shivering in a torn orange jacket that swallowed her tiny frame. She sniffed and wiped her nose as another blast of cold air rushed in from a landing shuttle. Her shoes were soaked, her hair plastered to her face, her stomach hollow, but her eyes, those fierce amber human eyes, held a fire the storm could not drown, and that fire drew the attention of something watching from the shadows between two rusted cargo tanks. A shape, tall, cloaked, trembling. A woman, not a human woman. Her skin was a shifting mosaic of blue and silver scales, shimmering in the neon light like wet galaxies. Her hair fell in long black coils that twitched with hidden life, and her eyes, wide, slit-pupiled, glowing faint violet, belonged to a lost predator far from her nest. She looked like a dragon forced into a humanoid body. Her claws scraped the floor as she tried to stay invisible, but fear made her movements clumsy. Aria turned, spotted her, and instead of fleeing, she stepped closer. The dragon woman flinched, expecting screams or threats or stones thrown by cruel dockworkers. But Aria just said, "You have no home and I have no mom." The dragon woman froze. No one had ever spoken to her gently on this planet. No one had ever looked at her with anything but terror or hatred. The girl's voice cracked a little as she spoke again, a trembling whisper swallowed by the distant roar of starship engines. "Are you scared too?" The alien's throat tightened. Her wings, folded tight under her cloak, twitched with surprise. "I fear everything," she said in a rasping voice shaped by unfamiliar human syllables. Her breath steamed in the cold air. "I fear your soldiers, your hunters, your machines, your kind." Aria tilted her head. "Humans?" she asked gently. The dragon woman nodded. Aria stepped even closer. Her small boots splashed in the puddles. "But I am human," she said, pressing her palm to her own chest. "Do you fear me?" The alien stared at the tiny hand. Unexpected warmth rushed through her chest, painful and sweet. "No," she whispered. "You are brave, and strange, and kind." Aria smiled faintly. For the first time tonight, someone had spoken kindly to her too. Before the dragon woman could speak again, alarms blared across the port. Red lights flashed. Steel shutters rose. Heavy boots thundered through the corridor. The ground shook as armored human soldiers stormed the docks. "Attention civilians!" A voice roared over the loudspeakers. "Be advised! A Class 7 dragon shapeshifter has escaped containment. The creature is extremely dangerous. Shoot on sight." The dragon woman stiffened in terror. Aria grabbed her clawed hand. "Come with me," she whispered fiercely. The alien blinked, stunned. "You would help me? A creature your soldiers hunt? Why?" Aria looked up at her with tear-filled eyes that glowed with stubborn, human fire. "Because humans do not abandon people who are lost," she said. "And because you look like you need someone." A tremor ran through the alien's wings. No one had ever said such words to her, not even on her homeworld. The loudspeakers boomed again, closer this time. "Sector 14 sweep complete. Moving to Sector 15. All exits sealed." Aria tugged the alien's hand. "Hurry!" They darted between crates, weaving through shadowed maintenance tunnels. Dock lights flickered overhead like dying stars. Steam hissed from broken pipes. The smell of burning fuel stung Aria's nose. Behind them, armored soldiers advanced with heavy mechanical steps. But even as they fled, the dragon woman kept glancing down at the fragile little human beside her. She had claws. She had fangs. She had fire in her blood. But the child had courage. A courage she had never witnessed in any other species. As they reached the dark loading bay, Aria looked up and whispered, "What is your name?" The dragon woman hesitated, then answered softly, Vashara. Arya smiled. That is pretty. Above them, metal creaked. Boots slammed on the catwalk. Voices barked commands. The chase was closing in. But something was changing. Vashara felt it. She had always seen humans as aggressive, territorial, violent. But this small, trembling girl, this fearless human child, she was proving something else entirely. Humans were strange. Humans were stubborn. Humans were powerful not because of claws or wings or fire, but because of heart, because of loyalty, because of the will to protect even a stranger. Vashara's wings quivered under her cloak as she whispered, Arya, why save me? I am a dragon. Your kind fears dragons. Arya squeezed her hand tighter. My kind fears many things, she said, but my heart does not. For a moment, Vashara forgot the soldiers, forgot the alarms, forgot the threat of death. She stared at the human child, who looked at her not with terror, but with hope. Vashara whispered, You are remarkable. Arya grinned. Humans are good at surprising everyone. The pounding boots grew louder. A spotlight swept across the bay. Vashara spread her wings under her cloak, shielding Arya with her entire body. She felt something awaken inside her, an ancient dragon instinct, the instinct to protect. For the first time since her homeworld burned, Vashara felt purpose. And for the first time since her mother vanished, Arya felt safe. The soldiers surrounded the bay. Shouts erupted, weapons raised. The soldiers fanned out across the loading bay, their boots thundering over the steel floor, like war drums rolling toward an execution. Harsh white light stabbed through the shadows, slicing across crates, spilled cargo nets, and the trembling steam haze that rose from cracked coolant pipes. Laser sights flickered red against the walls like hunting eyes. Arya's breath hitched. Her heart pounded so hard she felt each thud in her throat. Vashara lowered herself protectively. Wings arched just enough beneath her cloak to form a shield, but not enough to reveal what she truly was. She could feel Arya pressing against her leg. Tiny and shaking, yet still holding onto her with fierce little fingers that refused to let go. Contact, a soldier shouted. Movement near Bay 12. Weapons ready. The glow of their rifles brightened. The hum of power cells charging filled the air, sharp and cold. Vashara bared her fangs silently. She could survive the shots. She could release her fire and burn a path through these humans. But the girl at her leg would not survive. Arya sensed her fear and whispered, voice trembling yet stubborn as iron, Do not let them take you. Humans do not give up. The words hit Vashara with a force that nearly made her stagger. Such a small human, speaking with the certainty of a warrior, such fire in something so fragile. A spotlight snapped toward them. The soldiers froze for half a heartbeat. Then, target located. Dragon class confirmed. Fire at will. A crack of energy split the air as the first plasma shot fired. Vashara wrapped her wings completely around Arya and threw herself backward behind a stack of cargo containers. The plasma struck the ground where they stood, exploding in a geyser of molten sparks and scorching air that hammered against the metal walls. Arya screamed, more from the shockwave than fear. Vashara snarled, her reptilian throat vibrating with a threat that rattled the bolts in the floor. Another blast hit the side of the container, shaking the metal. Heat washed over them. The smell of burning steel stabbed at Arya's nose. This way! Arya gasped, pointing toward a maintenance hatch half hidden behind a forklift. How do you know where that leads? Vashara hissed. Arya swallowed hard. I lived here. I hid here. I know the spaces where no one looks. The words were quiet, soaked with loneliness, and pain Vashara recognized too well. She grabbed the girl, scooped her into her arms, and sprinted toward a hatch as 3 more plasma shots chased them in deadly white streaks. Her claws scraped sparks as she ducked low, wings tucked tight, moving faster than any human eyes could follow. Gunfire blazed behind them. Voices shouted in a panic. She is fast. She is heading for the lower tunnels. Cut her off before she reaches the subsystems. Vashara surged forward, breath burning, muscles coiling with every step. She slammed her shoulder into the maintenance hatch. The metal buckled with a shriek. Arya clung to her, arms around Vashara's neck, eyes squeezed shut. The hatch snapped open, and they plunged into the darkness of the service tunnels. Pipes lined the ceilings like tangled metal vines. Steam hissed in random bursts. Dim orange emergency lights pulsed overhead like dying embers, guiding them deeper and deeper into machinery-laden maze. Vashara's claws rhythmically clicked over the grated floor. Her breath echoed in the tight space. Her wings dragged sparks when they scraped against the walls. Arya lifted her head just enough to whisper, "Left at the next split. There's an old shaft that drops to the coolant bay. They never patrol there. You have mapped this entire place?" Vashara asked, disbelief threading her voice. Arya nodded weakly. "I had nowhere else to go." The hurt in those words cut deeper than any soldier's weapon. The soldiers did not give up. Their boots clanged into the tunnel behind them. Metal against metal, amplified like thunder trapped in a narrow canyon. "Move!" "She is close." "Do not let her escape to the lower decks." The tunnel shuddered as a heavy blast door began to shut automatically, triggered by the chase. Arya saw it first. "Vashara, hurry! It will close on us." Vashara's lungs burned as she pushed herself to maximum speed. Steam hissed around her legs. Orange lights flickered as though trying to warn her. The blast door screeched downward. Vashara dove. Her wings snapped tight around Arya as she slid under the shrinking gap. Metal scraped her back scales. Sparks rained over them. And then, boom, the door slammed shut behind them, cutting off the soldiers with a deadly echo that vibrated through the tunnel walls. Arya gasped for breath. Vashara slowly uncurled her wings. "You saved us," Arya whispered. Vashara shook her head, staring into the girl's bright, trembling eyes. "No, you saved us both. Your knowledge, your courage." Arya wiped her nose with the back of her hand. "I told you, humans do not abandon people." Vashara felt her chest tighten, not with fear, not with loneliness, but with a warmth she had nearly forgotten existed. The corridor ahead sloped downward into colder, darker air. The hum of coolant engines vibrated faintly from below. Arya pointed toward it. "We go down. The old bay connects to the waste channels. If we cross them, we can reach the docks on the far side. No soldiers go there because it smells bad." Vashara stared at the girl for a long moment, then let out a soft huff, almost a laugh. "You are strange, Arya." Arya adopted a proud little grin. "Humans are good at that." They descended, passing pipes dripping icy coolant that fogged the air. The temperature dropped sharply. Vashara's breath formed small white clouds. Arya shivered in her arms, but she did not complain. "You shake," Vashara said quietly. "You are cold." "A little," Arya admitted. Her voice came out small and thin. "But I am okay. You are warm." Vashara's heart clenched again. This human child, this fierce, strange, stubborn spark of life. She trusted her, a dragon with claws capable of crushing steel. She trusted her without hesitation. The trust felt heavier than any burden Vashara had carried. They reached the bottom of the shaft, entering a wide chamber filled with dense white mist. Massive machinery rose like frozen giants in the vapor. Pipes and catwalks twisted into shadowy shapes overhead. A low roar of circulating coolant resonated through the floor. Arya whispered, "We must cross to the far side. There's a maintenance platform near the main valve." They stepped forward, but Vashara froze suddenly. Her nostrils flared. Her scales prickled. Something was wrong. Before Arya could ask, a mechanical hum cut through the mist. Red lights snapped on. A circular turret deployed from the ceiling, targeting lasers locking onto movement. Arya gasped. A security drone. It was not here before. The drone speaker crackled, emotionless and cold. Unauthorized entities detected in coolant chamber. Initiating elimination protocol. A blast of white-hot energy seared the ground near their feet. Vashara spun, shielding Arya again. The heat rolled off her scales. Her wings shook from the force of the impact. "Hold tight," she shouted. The drone rotated, charging another shot, this one aimed directly at them. Vashara leaped, sprinting between machinery columns as another blast tore through the air. Sparks and molten metal sprayed everywhere. Arya screamed and buried her face into Vashara's chest. "You cannot outrun it." Arya cried. "It will track movement." Vashara snarled. "Then I will give it something else to track." She slid behind a coolant pipe, set Arya down carefully on the grated floor, and cupped the girl's face gently in her claws. "I will draw its fire," she said. Arya shook her head fiercely. "No, it will kill you." Vashara lifted her chin. "Dragons do not fall easily. Humans do not abandon people." Arya said again, grabbing Vashara's wrist with tiny shaking hands. "I will not leave you." Vashara stared at her, stunned speechless for a heartbeat. Such bravery, such defiance, such wild, human fire. The drone fired again, vaporizing a section of pipe above them. Freezing coolant sprayed down in a misty explosion. Vashara scooped Arya back into her arms and ran deeper into the chamber. The drone followed, its tracking lasers slicing through the fog like red blades. Another shot fired. Vashara twisted mid-run, letting it scorch her wing instead of hitting Arya. She roared in agony. The sound shook the entire chamber. Arya cried out, "Vashara!" The wound burned like liquid fire, but Vashara kept running. She would not let the girl go. Not now. Not ever. The catwalk they needed was close now, just across a narrow coolant conduit. But the drone had locked onto them completely. Final target acquired. It announced, preparing a massive charge. The air vibrated. The red glow intensified. The chamber filled with the rising scream of overloading energy. Arya pressed her forehead against Vashara's chest and whispered desperately, "Please do not let go. Please do not die. Humans fight for people they care about. You can fight too." Vashara's pupils contracted. A low, ancient power surged through her bloodstream. She looked down at the trembling human child, the only creature who had ever shown her kindness, the only person who had ever touched her without fear. Vashara inhaled deeply. Her chest expanded. Her throat tightened. Her lungs ignited with dragon fire. And with a roar that split the chamber in two, she unleashed a torrent of searing blue flame directly at the drone. The explosion was deafening. Metal screamed. The drone melted into molten shards that splattered across the floor. The shock wave rattled the machinery. Lights flickered violently. Arya clung to Vashara's neck, staring wide-eyed at the swirling vapor where the drone once floated. You breathe fire," Arya whispered, awestruck. Vashara panted, smoke curling from her nostrils. "Yes, dragons do that." Arya hugged her, small arms squeezing tight. "You saved me." Vashara held the girl close, adrenaline still burning in her veins. "No, Arya, you gave me a reason to." The alarms were growing distant now. The soldiers had not yet breached the blast door. They had a chance. Vashara carried Arya across the coolant conduit and onto the maintenance platform. The tunnels ahead sloped toward freedom, toward the quieter docks on the far side of the port. But Vashara could feel something else in the air. Something older. Something powerful. A presence awakening somewhere deep below the port, responding to her fire, to her roar, to the clash between human courage and dragon fury. Arya sensed it too. She looked back over her shoulder, eyes round and uncertain. "Vashara, what is waking up?" Vashara's scales prickled. "I do not know, but the universe is shifting, and humans will need all their strength." Arya took her hand. "Then we face it together." Vashara looked down at the tiny human with the giant heart, and with a voice low and fierce, she said, "Yes, together." The platform vibrated beneath their feet, a low, rhythmic pulse that felt almost like a heartbeat rising from deep inside the planet. Arya tightened her grip on Vashara's clawed hand as they stepped into the narrow access corridor. The air here was warmer, tinged with the smell of rusted steel and old engines that had not run in years. Dim yellow light struggled to remain alive, flickering in stuttering gasps as if warning them to turn back. Vashara's wounded wing dragged lightly against the wall, leaving streaks of shimmering dust from her damaged scales. Every movement sent fresh pain burning through her back, but she refused to slow down. She would not show weakness, not while the small human child relied entirely on her strength. Far behind them, the alarms echoed like muffled thunder. Soldiers shouted orders. Metal doors slammed open. Hunting boots marched through the maze of tunnels with relentless determination. But those sounds felt distant now. Something else filled the air. A hum. Deep, vast, ancient. It grew stronger with every step they took. Arya stopped suddenly and pressed her palm against the wall. Her tiny fingers trembled. "Vashara," she whispered. "There is something alive in the metal." Vashara crouched down beside her, eyes narrowing. "You sense it too?" Arya nodded. "It feels like listening." Vashara placed her palm on the wall as well. A shock rippled through her scales. The metal felt warm, pulsing faintly. "Alive. This port," Vashara murmured. "It is built over something older than your human cities." Arya's voice softened. "Do you know what it is?" "No," Vashara whispered. "But I fear we will soon find out." The corridor opened into a vast circular chamber. Massive pillars rose from the floor, like the roots of an impossible tree. Glowing lines pulsed across the walls, symbols of some forgotten language that neither of them recognized. At the center of the chamber lay a massive spherical structure, half buried in rock and steel. Its surface shifted with faint ripples like liquid metal responding to unseen currents. Arya let out a small gasp. "It looks like it is breathing." Vashara pulled her close, protective instinct rising again. "Do not touch it." Arya nodded, but she kept staring at the sphere in awe. "It is beautiful." The hum deepened, vibrating the floor. Dust drifted from the ceiling. The sphere brightened, an inner glow awakening like an eye opening after millennia of sleep. Vashara's wings flared slightly. Her tail lashed once, tense and ready. The sphere spoke, not with sound, not with light, with a pulse that resonated directly inside their minds. A single word. "Human." Arya's breath caught. Vashara snarled instinctively, scales lifting in alarm. The sphere pulsed again, stronger, its glow intensifying. "Human." Arya stepped back, shaking. "It is calling me." Vashara placed herself between Arya and the sphere. "No, it calls your species. Not you." Arya looked up, confused. "What does it want?" Vashara did not answer at once. Her eyes were fixed on the sphere, reading the shifting pulses of light across its surface. "This is an Archon device," she finally said. "Older than my world. Older than most galaxies. Created by beings who shaped the early universe. If it calls humans, then humans have something it seeks." Arya swallowed hard. "Is that good or bad?" Vashara shook her head slowly. "Both." The sphere pulsed again, and this time the air filled with swirling motes of light that drifted toward Arya like a gentle storm. She flinched but did not run. The motes danced around her, casting gold reflections on her cheeks. Vashara growled, "Stay behind me." Arya hesitated. "It is not hurting me." "I will not take the risk," Vashara said, stepping forward, wings spread protectively. The sphere changed, its surface liquefied, splitting open into intricate geometric shapes that rotated in the air like planetary rings. Energy spiraled outward, forming a swirling halo around the chamber. The hum intensified, angrier now, urgent. And suddenly Arya stiffened. "Vashara, someone else is here." They turned at the same time. A shadow moved between two pillars. Then another, and another. Soldiers, not the ordinary ones. These wore black armor reinforced with shimmering nanocloth and adaptive plating. Their helmets showed no visor, only a glowing horizontal strip of crimson light. Each carried heavy disruptor rifles capable of tearing through solid rock. The leader stepped forward. "Dragon," he announced in a voice without emotion. "You have entered a restricted containment zone. Surrender the human, and activate your binding restraints." Arya stepped in front of Vashara immediately, arms spread wide. "No!" The soldiers aimed their rifles at the child. Not to kill, to intimidate. Vashara snarled with a sound that shook dust from the ceiling. Smoke curled from the sides of her mouth. Her claws flexed. "If you harm her," she said, her voice like cracking stone. I will silence every one of your heartbeats. The soldiers did not flinch. Their leader simply tilted his head, as if analyzing her threat. The child is not your responsibility. She is now, Vashara growled. Arya reached back and grabbed Vashara's hand. Humans protect their friends, she whispered. And dragons protect what they claim, Vashara answered. The leader raised his hand. Fire. But before the soldiers could pull their triggers, the sphere erupted in blinding white light. The chamber shook as though an earthquake had awakened. Columns cracked. Sparks flew. The energy halo around the sphere intensified into a cyclone. A shock wave burst outward. Soldiers were thrown backward, like rag dolls. Weapons flew from their hands. Helmets cracked. Flickering with static, Arya was lifted off her feet. Vashara lunged, catching her midair. Her wings wrapped tightly around the girl as the shock wave slammed into them both. The world spun. Light, sound, heat, wind roaring like 10,000 storms. Vashara's claws dug into the floor to anchor herself. Her body shielded Arya from debris. The sphere rose slowly off the ground, suspended by an unseen force. Lines of glowing script spiraled across its surface, forming constellations that shifted in impossible patterns. Arya whispered in awe, though she could barely breathe. It is waking up more. The air vibrated with a new pulse. A deep, resonant voice filled the chamber. Human strength, human will, human defiance. You ignite the ancient flame. The soldiers began to recover, staggering to their feet, clutching damaged rifles. The leader pointed at the sphere. Contain it before it synchronizes. Vashara's wings snapped wide as she stood tall, placing herself directly in their firing path. You will not touch her. But the sphere pulsed again, and this time its voice sounded urgent. Human child, step forward. Arya trembled. I think it means me. No, Vashara hissed. It is too dangerous. Arya's eyes filled with tears. There is something inside calling me. I feel it, like it knows me. The soldiers spread out, flanking the chamber. Their weapons buzzed with recharging energy. You step away from the artifact, the leader demanded, or the child dies. Arya turned to Vashara, voice steady despite the fear. Humans fight for what matters. Let me try. Maybe I can stop all of this. Vashara's chest tightened painfully. She wanted to refuse. She wanted to protect the girl with every scale and every breath, but she also knew the truth. Humans did not run from destiny. They shaped it, slowly, reluctantly. Vashara stepped aside, just enough for Arya to step forward. Arya walked toward the sphere, small feet echoing softly in the vast chamber. Her shadow stretched across the glowing floor, trembling with each step. The sphere opened further, revealing a core of swirling starlight and drifting fragments of an ancient world. Arya lifted her hand. The soldiers raised their rifles. Vashara roared, preparing to intercept. But before anyone could act, Arya touched the sphere. The chamber exploded with light. Vashara shielded her eyes, stumbling backward. Soldiers screamed. Metal tore from the walls. The ancient language scrawled across the pillars burst into motion, swirling around Arya like a cyclone of glowing runes. Arya floated inches above the floor, hair lifting in a golden halo. Vashara reached out desperately. Arya! The child opened her eyes. Light poured from them. Her voice came out layered, ancient and young at the same time. Vashara, I see everything. Vashara staggered closer. What is happening to you? There's a memory inside the sphere, Arya whispered. Something the universe forgot. Something dangerous. Something only humans can awaken. The soldiers fired wildly, panicked, their blasts absorbed by the sphere's protective energy. Arya continued. It is showing me what humans will become. Not weak, not afraid. We survive everything. We adapt. We rise. Vashara reached her, hands trembling. Come back to me, little one. Arya smiled, a smile filled with starlight and sorrow. I am still me, but I am more now. The sphere pulsed again, its voice filling the chamber. Human child, you carry the spark. The universe will tremble. The ancient ones will return. Stand strong. The light intensified until the chamber dissolved into blinding brilliance. Then, as suddenly as it began, the sphere dimmed and released Arya gently to the floor. Vishara caught her, holding her close as the child sagged into her arms. Arya's eyes fluttered open. Vishara, humans are more important than anyone knows. Vishara held her tightly, heart shaking. Behind them, the soldiers regrouped, preparing to rush forward. But Arya lifted a small hand, and the sphere pulsed in sync. A shockwave hurled the soldiers back again. Arya whispered, "We have to run. More are coming. And something far worse is waking up in the deep tunnels." Vishara lifted the child and looked toward the corridor ahead. "Then we run," she said, "and we face whatever comes next together." The city lights of Port Jaraka flicker below like a broken constellation, trembling under the weight of something unseen, something vast, something waiting to claim it. Illyra breathed hard as she pressed her back against the cold metal scaffold, the wind slicing across her skin like sharpened glass. Her lungs stung. Her arms trembled. Her mind clawed to the echo of what the dragon woman had revealed, what the little girl had feared, and what the universe itself seemed desperate to hide. Virath crouched beside her, her wings folded tight, her reptilian eyes sharp as molten gold. Her scaled fingers trembled near the wound along her ribs, but she never complained, never asked for rest. Illyra admired that kind of strength, the kind born from endless survival, the kind humans had been forced to develop long before they ever stepped into the star lanes. Movement below, Virath growled softly. Her throat vibrated, almost like a second voice lived inside it. 3 squads. They are searching for the child. Illyra felt her heartbeat spike. The metal under her palms felt suddenly too slick, too thin, as if it might collapse and swallow her into machinery below. "We cannot let them take her," Illyra said. Her voice cracked from exhaustion, but her resolve stood like a stone pillar against a storm. "If they get the girl, then everything we fought through, everything you suffered for, it will all be for nothing." Virath's tail curled tighter around the support beam. "Your people always push forward," the alien dragon murmured, "even when the odds crush your bones, even when logic says run. I have lived centuries, and I have never seen such defiance." "It is not defiance," Illyra whispered. "It is hope. The universe will not hand us anything, so humans take it." Virath watched her for a long moment, her gaze unsettling yet full of something gentle beneath the beast. "Then let us take the girl back." They began their descent. The scaffolding quivered under Virath's weight, but she moved with astonishing grace, her talons clicking softly against the cold steel. Illyra followed, her breath fogging the air, her boots sliding against greasy metal and old rust. Every sound echoed to the port like a warning bell. Below them, armored soldiers patrolled with rifles humming with unstable energy. Their helmets reflected the crimson lights of the docked carrier ships. Their voices carried upward, sharp, mechanical, merciless. "Eliminate the dragon woman. Capture the human child at any cost." The words cleaved through Illyra like a blade. Virath's muscles tensed. Her lips peeled back in a silent snarl. "They hunt her like prey." "They will not touch her," Illyra said. "Not while I am breathing." Virath glanced sideways. "You speak with the fierceness of a warrior. Not many humans do." "Humans who lived easy do not," Illyra replied. "But humans who survive planets like mine, we learn differently." She moved first, sliding down the final rail, landing silently behind a pillar of stacked magnetic crates. Virath dropped beside her moments later, her wings flaring just enough to break her fall without a sound. Then they heard it, a small cough, a tiny whimper. The girl. Illyra's stomach twisted painfully. She scanned the corridor until her eyes landed on a narrow drainage tunnel beneath the port deck. A faint shadow trembled inside it. "There," she whispered. Virath nodded, but before they could move, boots thundered down the metal walkway. 6 soldiers rounded the corner. Their lights cut through the shadows like piercing white knives. Illyra seized Virath's wrist. "Follow my lead. We do this the human way." Virath raised a scaled eyebrow. With excessive risk? With excessive creativity, Elara corrected. She grabbed the nearest crate and shoved it hard. The magnetic seals broke with a crack. The crate toppled into another, then another, until a cascade of metallic thunder roared across the deck. Sparks exploded. The soldiers spun toward the distraction just as Virith launched herself forward like a comet of living muscle and fire. Her talons sliced through the first soldier's weapon. The man shouted, sparks flying as the rifle snapped like cheap plastic. Another soldier fired, but Elara slammed into him from behind, driving an elbow into his helmet. Her arms burned, but she refused to stop, refused to hesitate. She ripped the power core off his belt and smashed it against the ground. A burst of blinding light erupted, swallowing the walkway in chaos. Vyra took full advantage, her tail sweeping two soldiers off their feet, her wings knocking another against the railing. But the remaining soldier spotted the tunnel. He saw the girl. He raised his rifle. No! Elara sprinted. Her legs screamed. Her ribs throbbed. She tasted blood as she forced her body to move faster than fear. The soldier fired, but Virith lunged, tackling him sideways. The shot seared past Elara's back, burning hot enough to feel through her jacket. Elara skidded into the tunnel, scraping her knees against the cold metal as she reached the trembling girl. "It is all right," Elara whispered, pulling her gently into her arms. "I am here. I am not leaving you." The girl looked up with wide, tearful eyes. They said, "I am dangerous." They said I should not exist. Elara cupped her face. "You exist. That is enough." Outside, Virith crushed the soldier's rifle and hurled him across the deck. Her chest heaved. Her scales dripped with sweat and streaks of blue alien blood. But she remained standing. Elara emerged with the girl, and Virith immediately shielded them both with her wing. "We must move," Virith said. "More squads are coming. I can see their heat signatures." "Then we run," Elara replied. "But not blindly. We go to the shipyard tunnel under Bay 18. If we reach the abandoned cargo pods, we can lose them." Virith tilted her head. "Humans and their improvisation. It is our greatest weapon," Elara said. "We make paths where none exist." They moved through the back corridors, weaving between broken machinery and abandoned containers. The port groaned above them as if mourning its own decay. Pipes hissed. Lights flickered. Every step felt heavier, like the shadows wanted to swallow them whole. The girl clung to Elara's hand. Her skin felt cold, almost unnaturally so. Elara squeezed gently. "What is your name?" she asked softly. The girl hesitated. "Lyra." "That is a strong name," Elara said. "Stronger than you realize." "But I am not strong," Lyra whispered. "I am scared." Elara knelt in front of her, ignoring the ache in her knees. "You can be scared and still be strong. Humans are scared all the time, but we keep going." Lyra blinked slowly. "You are human, but you face monsters." "We all face monsters," Elara answered. "Some outside us, some inside us. But courage decides who wins." Virith watched them with an unreadable expression. Her tail flicked, restless and thoughtful. "More soldiers are near," she warned. "They are spreading out. They expect us to run straight." "Good," Elara said. "Then we will run crooked." Virith let out a short, surprised laugh. It sounded like grinding stones mixed with warm breath. Elara guided them through a maintenance shaft that twisted sharply downward. Every turn grew darker. The air tasted metallic and stale. The ceiling dripped with condensation that fell like cold needles on their skin. Suddenly, a distant explosion rocked the corridor. Dust rained from above. The lights ahead blinked violently before dying completely. Virith's wings flared. That was too close. "They are trying to collapse the tunnels," Elara said. "They want to trap us." "Then we must move faster," Virith growled. They emerged into an enormous chamber filled with towering cargo cranes. Their shadows stretched across the floor like skeletal giants. The silence felt too heavy, too thick, like someone had deliberately smothered the sound. Then Elara heard it, a faint mechanical click, a targeting lock. "Down!" she shouted. A beam of searing light cut through the air where her head had been. The blast struck a crane, melting through the steel like hot wax dripping from a candle. Virus shoved Lyra behind a barrier and roared, the sound shaking the entire room. From the far platform, elite soldiers stepped into view. Their armor glowed with red tactical stripes. Their rifles hummed with charged energy. Illyra's pulse thundered. These were not scouts. These were executioners. Illyra, Virith whispered, if they reach us, they will take the girl. I will hold them off. No, Illyra snapped. I will not let you die here. Virith looked down at her with something ancient in her eyes. You humans are remarkable, she murmured. You cling to others even when it hurts, even when it is impossible. Your hearts burn brighter than any star. Illyra swallowed hard. Then fight beside me. Do not sacrifice yourself for me. Virith stared at her for a long moment, then nodded once. The soldiers advanced. Illyra steadied her breath. Her mind sharpened. Her fear dissolved into raw determination. Lyra, she said quietly, stay behind the barrier. No matter what happens, you stay there. The girl nodded with trembling lips. Illyra rose. Virith stepped forward. The soldiers aimed, and the universe held its breath. The first shot blazed across the floor. Illyra dodged behind a support pillar, heat brushing her cheek. Virith leaped upward, wings snapping open, her claws raking sparks from the metal gantry as she launched herself toward the soldiers. The air filled with fire, light, and the roar of two species refusing to submit. Illyra seized a fallen rifle, ripped out the safety lock, and aimed directly at the power relays above the soldiers' heads. One shot, one chance. She fired. The relays exploded with an earth-shaking crack. Electric arcs screamed across the platform, bursting through the soldiers' armor like lightning searching for flesh. Sparks rained. Metal groaned. The entire walkway collapsed. Virith soared down and landed beside Illyra, breathless, fierce, alive. You thought that would work? She rasped. Illyra nodded. I hope. You humans, Virith said, staring at her with awe and bewilderment. You are the most dangerous creatures in the universe. Illyra smiled faintly. That is the idea. They turned to retrieve Lyra. But the girl was no longer behind the barrier. She stood in the open, her eyes glowing, her hair rising, her body trembling with a strange, pulsing light that illuminated the entire chamber. Illyra, Virith whispered, her voice shaken for first time. What is happening to her? Illyra breathed. Lyra's small voice echoed with layered tones, human, and something else threaded together like two souls sharing one breath. They are coming, she whispered, and they are not coming for me. Illyra stepped forward, dread poisoning her veins. Lyra, who are they coming for? Lyra lifted her glowing eyes. For you. The chamber shook. The air thickened. A new presence stirred somewhere in the dark. And Illyra realized humans were not the prey tonight. Humans were the threat, and something far older knew it. The chamber vibrated with a low, ancient hum that crawled across Illyra's skin, like static made of ghosts, each pulse heavier than the last. Lyra stood in the center of the room, trembling but unbroken, her body wrapped in light that did not belong to any weapon or creature Illyra had ever encountered. Virith shifted uneasily, her wings pulled tight, her claws digging into metal floor, as if anchoring herself against an unseen storm. Illyra took a slow breath and stepped toward the girl, even as a pressure built in the air that made her lungs strain, made her heartbeat rattle inside her ribs. Lyra, she said softly, talk to me, stay with me, tell me what this is. The girl's glowing eyes flickered with pain, with fear, with something unbearably old. They will not allow you to escape, Lyra whispered. They feel your defiance like a wound. They see the way you fight. They see your choices. They see what humans are becoming. Illyra's throat tightened. Her voice came out hoarse. And who are they? The light around Lyra intensified, swirling like solar fire drawn into the shape of a child. The architects, she said. The ones who shaped dragons. The ones who shaped the first worlds. The ones who fear only one thing in all creation. Virith flinched at the name, her pupils shrinking into narrow slits. That cannot be, she hissed. "The architects vanished before my great-grandmothers hatched. Their ruins are dust. Their monuments are dead." Lyra shook her head as tears of light streaked down her cheeks. "They never died. They hid. They watched. They waited for the universe to break itself. But then humanity climbed out of the dark and refused to fall. You rose when everyone expected you to kneel. You fought when everyone expected you to surrender. You created hope in places that only held ash." She lifted her small hand toward Alara, her voice trembling. "And that terrifies them." A cold ripple passed through Alara's bones, as if the entire universe inhaled sharply around her. She felt something beyond sight observing her, something impossibly ancient leaning closer, examining the shape of her courage like a dangerous artifact. Vira stepped closer protectively. "Then they will face us," the dragon woman growled. "No architect will harm this child or this human while I draw breath." Another vibration thundered through the chamber. Not mechanical, not physical, something deeper. Reality itself seemed to warp. The air bending as if space had become a sheet of glass pushed inward by unseen hands. The metal floor groaned. Lights flickered violently. A circuit of distortion opened in the far wall, dark, shifting, alive. Alara felt her heart seize. A silhouette stepped through, tall, unreal, elegant and terrible like a god sculpted from starlight and shadow. Its body shimmered with patterns that moved like living equations. Its face held no mouth, no eyes, yet Alara felt its gaze pierce straight into her mind, peeling back her fears and memories and victories with silent precision. The architect. The chamber fell into complete silence. Then a voice echoed, but it was not heard through ears. It moved inside thoughts, inside nerves, inside the spaces between heartbeats. "Human." Alara stumbled a half-step backward. Her body trembled, but she forced herself to stand tall. She forced her lungs to inhale. She forced her voice to steady. "I am Alara, and you have no right to take this girl." The architect's pulse of thought washed over her like a cold tidal wave. "You misunderstand. We do not seek her destruction. We seek yours." Virith roared, her tail snapping against the floor so hard that metal buckled. "You will not take her." Another wave of thought hit them, and Virith fell to one knee, gasping as if her wings were being crushed by invisible gravity. Alara moved instantly, grabbing Virith's shoulder. "Stay with me," she whispered. "Fight it. Do not let this thing break you." Virith gritted her teeth. "Your species fights with such fury. Now I see why they fear you." The architect took another step forward. Lyra's glow intensified as if she were a shield struggling to hold back a cosmic tide. The floor cracked under force rippling outward. "Human evolution has diverged from our design," the architect declared. "Your defiance spreads. Your influence grows. You infect the fragile balance of the stars." Alara lifted her chin. "Because we do not bow." "Yes." The word struck like a hammer against her skull. "You refuse the order we shaped. You refuse the paths we wrote. You are unpredictable, dangerous. You threaten what has stood for ages before your species learned fire." Alara took another step forward, her voice rising. "Maybe we were never meant to kneel. Maybe the universe needed something that does not follow your rules." The air shuddered around the architect, as if her words scraped against its very existence. "You believe yourselves exceptional." Alara nodded without hesitation. "We are." The architect's form pulsed once, darkening, brightening, distorting. The chamber trembled violently. Virith hissed in warning. "Alara, you stand before a being that ended civilizations with a whisper." "I know," Alara said quietly, "but I will not let it touch her." She stepped between Lyra and the architect, placing her own fragile human body as a barrier between ancient power and the glowing child. The architect regarded her silently. Then, "You do not possess the strength to oppose us." Alara glared back. "Maybe not alone, but humans never fight alone." Virith rose at her side, battered but unbroken. Lyra placed a small glowing hand against Alara's back, steadying herself and Alara both. The three stood as one. A human, a dragon, a child born of something beyond understanding. The architect's presence trembled, confused by this unity, this defiance, this refusal. Ilara stepped forward again. You want to know why humans scare you so much? Her voice trembled, but did not falter. It is not our strength. It is not our weapons. It is not our numbers. She placed her hand over her heart. It is this. We care. We fight for each other. We take the broken, the lost, the abandoned, and we make a family. You cannot understand that. You cannot control that. And you cannot destroy that. The architect's shape flickered. Reality vibrated under its shifting form. Your compassion is your weakness. Ilara shook her head fiercely. No, it is the one thing that lets us beat monsters stronger than us. She stepped closer, even as the air stung her skin and her vision blurred from the pressure radiating off the being. You said humanity spreads like a disruption, a divergence, something uncontrollable. She leaned forward. That is called hope. The architect's form convulsed violently. Cracks of light split across its body. The chamber shook as if a star was dying inside it. Lyra cried out, collapsing to her knees. Ilara grabbed her instantly, pulling her close. Vyra threw her wings around them both, shielding them as energy whipped through the room like a cyclone of light and shards. The architect screamed, not through sound, but through raw force that tore the edges of consciousness. Then with final shudder, the being burst into fragments of blinding light that shot upward and vanished like dying meteors into the ceiling. Silence crushed the chamber. Only their ragged breaths remained. Lyra sagged in Ilara's arms, her glow fading until she looked like an ordinary frightened child again. Her small hand clung to Ilara's jacket. They retreated, Vyra whispered. In all my years, in all the legends, no architect ever retreated. Ilara brushed Lyra's hair back gently. They will come again, she murmured, but they will not find us unprepared. Vyra's golden eyes softened as she looked at the human woman holding the child with such fierce devotion. You changed something today, Vyra said, not just for the girl, not just for yourself. You changed something in the universe. Ilara felt the weight of that, felt it settle into her bones like a quiet promise. Humans did not back down. Humans did not surrender. Humans did not obey ancient tyrants just because they were old. Humanity created its own fire, and it burned brighter than fear. She lifted Lyra into her arms. Come on, Ilara whispered. We are not done. We have a long road ahead, a dangerous one. Vyra extended a wing over them both. Then I will fly beside you. Ilara nodded. The chamber lights flickered back to life as the port resumed its distant mechanical hum, unaware that its walls had just witnessed the defiance of an entire species. Ilara stepped forward into the corridor, Lyra resting against her chest, Vyra at her side. Whatever waited beyond the port, architects, enemies, monsters, mysteries, they would face it together. And the universe, for the first time in countless ages, would learn that humans were not prey. Humans were the storm, and their story was only beginning.